Hi, I'm John Rossbach with Studio 176 in Park Rapids, Minnesota. Today I'm with Ramona Howey and Barry Simonson, our second in the In Tandem couples series that we are featuring here at the Studio Gallery.
Hi, I'm Ramona Howey. I'm an artist in Park Rapids, Minnesota.
Hey, I'm Barry Simonson. I'm an artist in the Park Rapids area, born and raised in Fargo, North Dakota.
Barry and Ramona moved here in 2001 from Minneapolis, where they bought an old farmstead that they restored. And then they sold that a few years later and now own what was an abandoned racquetball court and are restoring that into their home and studio space. So that's a little bit of a background, but they are featured artists, like I said, of this piece back here called Relations. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My emphasis was on painting, and I really enjoy, color and how it responds to each other. And I also did some printmaking.
And so I studied printmaking at MSUM, where I was really influenced by what Tyler Graphics was doing and Gemini. They were taking painters and making prints with them, and that's kind of a very popular contemporary thing to do, and mixing plates and having layers to their work. So yeah, I think that's when I decided that I was an artist.
Both, obviously have a love of art and music, but how does your relationship affect that?
This is the first time we worked together.
Yeah, it really is. It's the first time that we've ever kind of worked together collaboratively.
It might be the first of many.
Yeah, it was kind of a really great experience. We've never really given it a chance either. We've worked collaboratively in remodeling and designing old houses, but never really seriously as artists with each other.
Why art, and when did you realize that you were an artist?
That's how my brain works. I respond to things visually, and ever since I started drawing at about age 2, and the horse entered my world about that same time, and I was very inspired to start up, and I did that all the time as a kid. My siblings would go to a movie or something. I'm the youngest of 7, and I would choose to stay home and draw and stuff rather than join them to the movie. I'm a homebody, and painting I find just very peaceful and.
So I grew up in the arts, really. I was fortunate enough to be raised in the Fargo Moorhead area, where the school system thought highly of teaching art in the schools. And so I had many of opportunities to do that, starting from the 6th grade, taking my first art class. That was in the summertime, and it was an all-day event, and it was just immersive. And at the same time, it was when Trollwood was starting, and it was at Trollwood Park. And so I got to see these older kids doing this amazing stuff in theater, in the theater arts. So I've been involved in all aspects of it throughout my life, really. I didn't choose visual art until college. Throughout high school, I was doing all of it. I was dancing, I was in theater, I was taking art classes, but it was not in the school system, it was outside the school system. And then during school, high school classes, instead of taking an art class through high school, I took drafting classes. So I had the interest of, designing and architecture. So I had all these things going on, and I guess at the end, I was like, no, I'm gonna go be an artist. And so I studied printmaking at MSUM, where I was really influenced by what Tyler Graphics was doing and Gemini. They were taking painters and making prints with them, and that's kind of a very popular contemporary thing to do, and mixing plates and having layers to their work. So yeah, I think that's when I decided that I was an artist, I guess. But I still love all of it.
I had the opportunity to be with this for several hours today, and it's an amazing piece because they're individual panels for our viewing audience, but in each of them you can start seeing, these themes that are happening. One, I get a sense a lot of North Dakota. Now, are you both from North Dakota?
Yeah, I was born and raised in North Dakota, but Ramona was a transplant to North Dakota.
When I was 2, so.
Oh, okay, so almost, yeah.
But she was from Jamestown and I'm from Fargo, but my relatives are from the Dickinson area.
Okay.
And my great-grandparents are from that area. So there's a strong tie to North Dakota.
Okay, because I really like to, I see some things that for people who don't know are really traditional kind of symbols or emblems of North Dakota. We have the oil rigs, we have the rodeo, we have the buffalo, and then we have the paint can lids, which are like.
But those were chosen out of, so the bluffs in the Battlelands, I went through and just kind of looked at all these photographs that people were taking of these beautiful bluffs, and those paint lid cans are influenced by the colors that I was seeing in those photos. So those all tie into North Dakota as well.
Okay, so
But
I would love to have just your viewpoint or your, what the work is all about. Explain it to our audience.
Was the impetus for this show. Barry's grandma handed us this pile of photographs that her brother had taken, and she handed them to us and said, please promise me you'll do something with these. And so that was the joint effort of where we could agree to start working together on this. And so my inspirations from the photographs that she had given us, I mostly just did a drawing off of it, just one shape or something that I liked, and then I cut it out and use that in my pieces.
So I'm curious about, some of them are like, almost like from the rodeo, and then you have the oil rig things,
So then I inherited from my great uncle was a photographer as a hobby. And when my grandmother died, Ramona and I inherited some of his photographs. And when we kind of had a session with my grandmother, she was like, we love these photographs of all of these rodeo guys, bronco riders, and Ramona was really gravitating to her because she works with that horse image, and for me it was just, there were really cool, almost violent pictures of the horse trying to get away and the cowboy trying to stay on. But we never knew what we were going to do with them. Both of us would pull them out once in a while and thinking we were going to do something creative with them, but we really just didn't know what. But my grandmother did say if we took them that we had to do something with them. Mm-hmm. That was something that she made pretty clear, that if you take these, you got to do something with them. So this is us doing something with them.
That's great.
So yeah, the other part of that is my great-grandfather was kind of a land baron. He went to North Dakota and bought up all of this land. And when it was time to sell some land, he always sold it without selling the mineral rights. And so those mineral rights are kind of important now and today because they finally figured out, I think he had a sense that there was oil there and there was not the technology around at the time to extract it. I think there was several times North Dakota tried in failure basically, but now in our modern times with fracking, they're able to do it. And so there's kind of a story around that.
But in Jamestown, North Dakota, not only is there the world's largest buffalo, but there's also the state hospital where my mother worked. She was a single mom with 7 kids. So she worked a lot. And in daycare, which is where I went, was at the state hospital. And the colors on the walls were just, you can see it in that piece up there, just that drab tan on the top and then this weird green on the bottom. And that's where some of my palette on this came from, was the State Hospital Rodeo.
Another thing that's influenced the color is just where we live now and with water and and the relations that we had with the photographs that kind of influenced it, and then relations in how all of the 12 by 12s kind of act with each other. And I don't think that your eye, when you look at it as a whole piece, are resting on just one place. And that was pretty strategic of us when we got the work done and where we wanted the eye to go. So in that, there's relations. There's relations for us doing the work. There's relations, the color.
Space of North Dakota, grandma's.
And then,
Quills.
I kind of already mentioned the history of the photographs, but yeah, we started interacting more. Like I was interacting with what Ramona was doing, and I thought that was really kind of fun and interesting in terms of like, oh, I can put another layer on this photograph. But I was doing it in a way that kind of mimicked her layers. So
So,
feel like that
maybe
was kind
going
of
back to
interesting.
the piece then, because you said that you were kind of, seeing what she was doing. Are there any pieces that you both have your hands on, or you each did kind of half and half, or?
No, we didn't ever participate in that. I think more critique-wise, it was more like, hey, should I do this? It was more about that. It was more about
the lids, I would say.
I think the lids are kind of a great response because Ramona, in her everyday job, was collecting these lids. Like she was just bringing home the lids. We're like, what are we gonna do with these lids?
So was that part of the intention with this work?
Yeah, to use it in
Just we're sure.
art somewhere, and this piece fell.
What inspires you and your work, and what are some of your influences?
Well, I've always been drawn to the subject of animals as far as inspiration, and I find people and figurative drawing just not as exciting for me. There's so many artists that I'm influenced by. Susan Rothenberg is one. Deborah Butterfield, I absolutely love. Mary Rosa Bonheur, that's a big one. I actually got to go to England and see her pieces in a castle that was not open to the public, and it was amazing.
What inspires me in my work? I think it's just the idea of process. Being a printmaker, you have to think somewhat of your end product, and then you have to kind of strip it back, and it's all about the layering. And I think process is really something that I'm interested in, more so, and concept. I think working with those ideas. So those concepts, like I earlier was talking about, man versus nature, nature versus man, man and his environment. So those things are always really important to me. In terms of artists who influence me, the range is pretty large. I really love lots of different people, and for different reasons. It's hard to pinpoint just one, like, oh, this person really is hugely influenced on me. I like certain artists, but I don't know if they influence my work. And maybe they do, I don't know. But gosh, it goes back to Goya. It goes back to the people who were doing prints and dry point in the very early days. Their line work is just amazing. People like Francesco Clemente is somebody that I looked at a lot in college days. Francis Bacon, just Muybridge in his photo studies. I love using photographs in my work. I'll take photos and put them through a copier. In fact, this show has a ton of that process going on that I still do today.
What's your creative process? What's your studio process, and when do you know your work is done?
That is always the question. Sometimes I just stop and I look at it and think, okay, there. But when I sit down to canvas, I don't really have anything in particular that I'm knowing I'm going to do and what it's going to end up being. Sometimes I sit down and just swipe a color and start from there, and then I respond with the next color, and then I might in the end turn it, make it become what it's going to be. And then I try to stop a little earlier than I think I should, because sometimes things can get really overworked quickly, and I'm not fond of looking at those.
When do you know when your work is done?
I don't think an artist really knows that. I mean, I think you just have to decide it. I mean, I think there's sometimes when you're always looking at something, oh, I could have done that or made that stroke better. But sometimes it's best just to leave it alone and go, okay, you know what? I'll do another one. Instead of reworking something that might need it, and then that's the decision too. I think it's a lot of pondering and looking at the work and going, oh, is it done? Yeah, I think it's done.
Now, I don't know if you can share this or not, but I'm just super fascinated with the lids, with the horse in the one in there, and I'd love to know that process.
That was me.
Is that it?
I was doing cutouts of some of the Xeroxing and just tracing some of the horses and the riders, and I thought, oh, those are kind of cool, so I had spray paint around the house and we had a lot of the black lids, and so I was taking those and spray painting on top of them to get kind of a silhouette. I had a whole bunch of them, and I was like, we didn't do it a whole lot, so I didn't want to kind of make it overload with that kind of shape. So I kind of just left them a little bit more secretive.
One of the other things too is, you have some natural materials in here too, and just curious about the incorporation of that as part of the process in your choice of materials.
You might be referring to the pine needle piece
Yes.
above me.
And I don't know if it's a natural material on the horse, the white horse too. It's like a grassy kind
The
of
mossy.
Yeah.
That was a found object from
Okay.
the dollar store. But the pine needles we get in our yard. That's all we get is pine needles in our yard. And so I cut a piece off the tree and used fresh ones because I found out the ones on the ground were not cooperating. And I glued them all on to the board.
Okay.
And
Superpower. So if you had a superpower, what would it be? Or what is your superpower? Well, that's it. Ramona, we'll start with you.
I think flying would be my superpower. And then you could just fly over the fences. Get away from whoever.
Well, And your response to that, Barry? What is your superpower?
I think it would be shapeshifter. Changing
That's a
into
good one. I forgot about that one.
changing to whatever I want and getting the hell out if I need to.
All right. Okay. In Tandem artists of Barry and Ramona, we thank you very much. Their work will be up all in the month of July here at Studio 176. It is for sale, and you can purchase it as one entire piece or individually. So, but as soon as the first one goes, then it's not
You gotta
available. It's
replace
always
it.
gone. Yeah.
Kind of changes it.
Yeah.
So
All
So
right.
you gotta be quick.
gotta
Okay.
be quick.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don.
No problem.